Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, testing. Testing, 1, 2. Is it coming through?
Keep going.
Yep, testing.
Yeah, I think
Test. Oh, now it's getting it.
yeah.
Now it's picking it up. Yeah. Yep. Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Yep. That's good.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Sounds good. Then I should just go ahead and leave it on, right?
I think I'm hot. Well, it's 6:45, and I think we'll get started here because Scott, once he's done here, he's going to jump in that white truck outside with that motorcycle that he calls Harley Davidson. We kind of like to have a good time. I ride Hondas, and he rides Harleys, so we've always had a good time. And we've covered all the United States on bike, and he's my dear friend, and we worked together for 40 years in Minnesota. And I just want to welcome everybody to come here and listen to Scott's story. He's got an incredible story about basically two accomplishments here. He wants to accomplish a 120,000 mile ride in 120 consecutive days. I think it's kind of insane, but we're in church, right? And then his cause is just a wonderful cause. And I mean, the more you learn about human trafficking, I tell you what, it's just a very, very sad story. So we all got to be godly men, and we got to be smart women, and we got to fight this because it's a deadly business. So with that, I guess Scott, he is an international speaker. He spoke all over the United States, all over the continent. He's been to all 7 continents, international speaking. I won't give all the accolades because he gave me 2 sheets of paper and it is quite long, so I'm going to cut it short. Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you. He's my brother from a different mother. Yeah. Guess what? So with that, Scott, you go.
Thank you, everybody. Can you hear okay? Okay. I can't tell you how honored and what a privilege it is to be with you here tonight. For you to turn out and listen to this particular talk, I'm going to tell you the war and fight against human trafficking is a scourge on our country and a scourge in the world. And I did a little research before I got here. 50 states, the United States. Where does Georgia rank in the number of worst in the country? You're 4. Yeah, you're number 4. There's a lot of states that are better than you. And Maynard and I, we're from Minnesota. We're only 8th worst in the United States. And I live 17 miles from St. Cloud, Minnesota, a town of 100,000 people. It's the number 1 human trafficked city in Minnesota. I live 17 miles from it. And they had a bust 3 weeks ago, and they caught 4 bums that were human. I'm just going to keep this G-rated. They were human trafficking about 20 young women, okay? Some of them girls were kidnapped out of country, didn't know what country they came from, didn't speak English, couldn't write, couldn't read. So what got me started on this, before I go any further, if you didn't pick this up outside, please pick it up on your way out. Victor Williams was the head human trafficking agent for Georgia for a number of years. It is now an Elena in that position, okay? They provided the 2025 Georgia statewide human trafficking task force. Families at least, please pick up one of these before you go. It will tell you who you can reach out to, why you should reach out to them, what you are looking for. It's 5 pages, stuck together, front to back. There is another one called United We Win. And it is about what is happening. I know it's a church, but sexting has become a problem. This sucker right here is the reason for 90% of the human trafficking in the world. Too many people trust this thing. Too many people think somebody on the other end of this thing, whether it's social media or whoever, is their friend. Some of you young people in this room, you can be talking with someone that says they're your same age. They will send you a fake picture of themselves. They will become your best friend. And I just spent, on my way down here, you're a long ways from Minnesota. It was 22 hours to get here. And every place I stopped to fill up gas, they said, "Why is the motorcycle in the back of the truck?" And I told them, and very quickly, they were asking how they could help to fight this cause. It's a war, people, and we got to fight it. All right, so you end up with this friend on the other end. Might be if you're a young lady in this room, a teenager, that other young teenager that you're friending, you're sending pictures of yourself to, might be a 55, 60, 70-year-old creep. And that creep is trying to get you to show up, to come to some activity, some school activity. So I get a call on the way down here. And I believe there is a God, and He's watching us, and He's trying to help us. And where this is going, I told Maynard, he was trying to call me 2 nights ago as I'm driving down here. And I didn't answer the phone because a gentleman from Hutchinson, Minnesota calls me and says, "Scott, my name's Jonah." I won't give his last name. He says, "I met you 4 years ago." So I'm sorry, I can't recognize your name. I don't really know who you are. How did we meet? He says, "Well, we met at a snowmobile show in Minnesota. And by the way, you Georgia people, do you know that Jesus Christ is not the only person who can walk on water? I just left home. It was 18 below zero. I can walk on water too." Okay, I mean, I can't turn water into wine, but I'll guarantee you I can walk on water, okay? So we're talking, and he's asking about a snowmobile part. And I'm going, okay, what do you need help with? He says, "I need an Arctic Cat windshield piece." I said, "Well, okay, I don't remember meeting you 4 years ago, but here's a couple phone numbers. Call these people. I think they would be able to help you." And all of a sudden, my pickup truck made a sound, and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm driving to Georgia." "Why?" He says, "It's the middle of the night. What are you driving to Georgia for?" I said, "I got a motorcycle in the back of my pickup truck," and I said, "I'm trying to get to Georgia to have a talk with a group at a church in Sylvania about how to defend and fight and stop this human trafficking business. And Georgia is a pretty bad state," but I said, all kidding aside, so is Minnesota. And I said, "I'm going down there, and then I'm ready to do a 120,000-mile motorcycle ride in 120 days, and we're going to try to raise $1.2 million to fight human trafficking because I'm sick of this stupid thing. And I've got 8 little grandchildren living on our farm. They are," hold on, there's probably a lot of grandparents in this room, but You tell me how many grandfathers in this room know the ages of all 7 of their grandchildren. Huh? You grandmas do. But I'm going to tell you, this grandpa right here, my grandchildren start with Molly, ends with Tina. There are 7 of them, and it took me a while to get this down, but they are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 years old. Now, how many in here? I mean, come on. And all I got to do is remember it's a year later, and I know exactly how old they all are again. So I'm going to put this thing back. I am very, very concerned. Has anybody ever heard of Jacob Wetterling? He was the first kid ever kidnapped in Minnesota, and he became the milk carton kid. Has anyone seen our son, Jacob Wetterling? He was kidnapped riding his bicycle. He was a 10-year-old boy. He was riding with his friend 9 miles from my farm. And some moron stopped, grabbed him off his bike, threw him in his pickup truck, and they searched for their child for almost 40 years. In jail, this animal admitted he'd grabbed him, physically harmed him in ways I don't want to talk about, and killed him right there on the spot. And 40 years later, his parents have been looking for him. The Jacob Wetterling Foundation, it became famous how you look for these children who have been kidnapped or stolen or killed or disappeared or all these kinds of things. 9 miles from my farm. The creep told them where he'd buried him. And the mom and dad finally were able to bury the bones from a 10-year-old boy from 40 years ago. And he's still a child to them. And he's with God now, okay? But he's asking all of us to fight this war, fight this battle. And again, there's young people in this room going, not me. I'm immortal. You see, I was immortal when I was your age too. I had more testosterone flowing through my veins, and I could run higher, jump higher, climb higher, outrun more cops than anybody on earth. I could not be killed. Could I, young people? We have a little bit of juice running through our veins when we're that age. And so did I. And so did all of them. But you're not immortal. You rely on your God. Rely on your faith. Rely on people you trust. Rely on teachers you can count on. Rely on your ministers. Rely on people you trust. And if you're in a bad place and you don't trust something, it doesn't feel right, reach out. Nothing wrong with asking for help. And if it's not your mom and dad because you don't have that strong a relationship, reach out to a teacher. And if you don't have a good relationship with that teacher, reach out to a minister. Reach out to an aunt, an uncle. But reach out, because that phone call 2 nights ago, he stopped me after 30 seconds, and I said, I can give you a phone number where you can buy that Artie Cat snowmobile part, but I don't have one. I can't help you any further than that. What are you doing? I'm driving down to Georgia to talk to the Sylvania people. Why? Because we're going to fight human trafficking. Every chance we can, we are going to fight this thing. A 50-year-old man started sobbing non-stop on the phone, and Maynard's trying to get through, and I'm going, Maynard, go away. Something's going on here. God's reaching out to us. And he goes, I live in Hutchinson, Minnesota. No one knows this, but our now 27-year-old daughter, when she was 17 years old, got in a little bit with the wrong crowd. I said, well, it happens. I guess I could say I was in a wrong crowd once too. Yeah, but she ended up being kidnapped by sex traffickers. We couldn't find her for 6 years. I said, 6 years. And this is a full-grown man weeping, telling me this story. And he says, we got her back after 6 years, didn't know where she was, what had happened to her. And she had been treated like a drug-infected, drug-injected piece of meat. I'll leave it at that. And we got her back. And she was so addicted to the drugs they'd had her on. She was so into what they'd made her become. We got her to counseling. We got her to be cleaned up from the drug habit. We started working on her, and 6 months later, she ran away again to go to the sex trafficker. He says, our daughter will never be the same. Our lives will never be the same. Our other children. He says, thank you for going down to Sylvania and talking to the group. Thank you for going down to Miami. Now, I'm going to get off this topic because it's not that pleasant, okay? But what kicked me in gear? I ride motorcycle for a true love and a hobby. Maynard and I have covered all 50 states, the United States. We have driven through Canada. We have driven from Canada 1,600 miles down through the United States and went to El Paso, Texas, and into Juarez, Mexico. We have done a lot of motorcycle riding together. Some of us like marathon endurance motorcycle rides. And I was sharing with somebody here earlier this evening. I have the most tremendous respect for someone that runs a 26-mile marathon. I'm telling you, anybody that can do that, I am so proud of you. Now, I think you're an idiot if you do it. I'll guarantee you, if you can run 26 miles, I think you're crazy. Do I look like I want to run 26? No, I do not want to run 26 miles, okay? But I have a tremendous respect for someone that can, and they work so hard to do it. Now, stop and think about this. Anybody that does a marathon or these kinds of sporting events, do you know they never care what anyone else's time is? They're racing against their own clock. You ever notice that? They only care what they accomplish and try to beat their time. They're not egomaniacs. They couldn't be. They're half crazy to run miles like that. All right. I'm with him, his brother-in-law, and his cousin, 10 years ago? I don't know how long ago it's been. And they allowed, they're Honda people, okay? And they allowed a Harley guy with 2 loud of pipes. They always made me ride in the back because they couldn't hear the birds chirping when I was... So I took a lot of grief. I had to ride way behind these Honda guys. I'm not going to kid you. Every time we'd stop, I'd put the kickstand down, and my Harley always marks its territory, kind of like a dog, okay? You know, it leaves a stain. And these Honda people, I can't understand it. We don't even know where the oil leaks out of a Honda. I said, well, Harley's just got to leak a little oil because that's how they work. That's what makes them run good. Well, I learned that I had to stop quite often at Harley places to keep the thing going. It'd lose the shifting gear. So I'd have to put on a multiplier, you know, and lock it in there so I could shift like this till we get to a Harley deal. These guys were always giving me crap. If you just ride a Honda, you wouldn't have these problems. But Maynard's brother-in-law said, you like to ride and you ride a lot. Why don't you do an iron butt motorcycle ride? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. What's an iron butt? And they said, well, there is an international association called the Iron Butt Motorcycle Association, and there are 100,000 people that ride motorcycles, long-distance marathons. Think about a marathon, a running marathon, and they have to get a witness. Usually you get a sheriff or a policeman or a fireman that takes a picture of your odometer, writes down what date, what time it is, and agrees to be a witness to be called. And then you take off, and every credit card receipt filling up the vehicle is your time clock. And you have to do 1,000 miles in 24 hours. And his brother-in-law says, you ought to do that. I said, that's a good idea. You guys got 2 more days of the trip left. I'm taking off and doing 1,000 miles right now, didn't I? And I left. Maynard goes, you crazy? I said, no, that sounds like fun. Boom, I put on the 1,000 miles. Did it in about 15 hours. I didn't break the speed limit. I drove legally. You have to drive legal. You gotta drive. You got a cough, or what's the problem back there? Someone let him out. And I knocked off the 1,000 miles and went, that was actually quite fun. I thought I'd have a sore butt, but I didn't. I thought I'd have cramps, but I didn't. I thought I'd be exhausted, but I wasn't. I was in a zone, in my own place, in peace with God, having prayers and conversations and seeing the beauty of this country like I'd never done before. And so I did another one, and I did another one, and I did another one. Now, just so you know, I have 2 sons. They're now 40 and 42 years old, but those 2 sons, when they were 30 and 32, said, Dad, you've done about 50 or 60 of these 1,000-mile rides in 24 hours. We want to go with you and see what it's like to have an iron butt sticker on the motorcycle. I said, great, that's good. I'm so glad. We're taking off, from our home in Minnesota. We're going to jump up to North Dakota. We're going to cut down through South Dakota, go to Sioux City, Iowa. We're going to run across, and you can end this thing in Wisconsin. It's just 1,000 miles. I have 2 adult sons that hate me to this day. They are very angry at me. We're at the 600-mile mark. My oldest son is pulled off the side of the road. I come up, I say, what are you doing? He says, I'm doing jumping jacks. I'm falling asleep. I said, it's only been 600 miles. Leave us. We don't want to be near you. They got through their 1,000 miles that night, got in about midnight, and they said they'll never do it again. So what I'm saying is do you have to be a little crazy to do this? Maybe. Maybe you do. I've got 1 current Guinness World Record. And please understand, I don't care about Guinness. I don't care about world records. I care about my next ride. I care about the next thing I'm going to try to accomplish and see if I can beat whatever, my time, the distance, whatever it is, like a marathoner. But I found out that the Guinness World Record of riding 1 motorcycle in all 48 and do it was 8,000 and cover. I that day or whatever, in a row. And just so you know, I was born in 1955 to my dear mother, who is now almost 90. I lost my father at almost 90 years of age last April. But my mother had a real problem with me when I was born, because any of you moms in here that have ever fed your newborn child, let's say you nurse them. They go to bed and sleep, don't they? Till they're hungry. Then they wake up, bawl, and you feed them again. Every time I see my mother, yet to this day, she goes, why couldn't you be more like your brothers and sisters? You only slept 2 hours a night, and all you did was cry and scream and move around and crawl and jump out of the crib all night long. Why couldn't you be more like your brothers and sisters? I said, I don't know why, Mom, I don't know. I just know that I don't need much sleep. Do you know that Maynard, have I ever had a cup of coffee? Have I ever sipped coffee in my life? This is me without caffeine. Who wants to know me if I drink my first cup of coffee? I'm this wired all the time, aren't I? I'm always on high go. I only sleep 2 or 3 hours a night. I don't know what else to do with myself unless I ride motorcycles all over the place. I write books. Whatever. I don't much care for TV. I don't watch much TV. But the Lord blessed me with a high energy level. And I'm going to tell you young people over here, I used to get in trouble a lot. I've tried outrunning cops, didn't do it. I ended up spending time in jail. I got fingerprinted. I got booked. I got caught. I couldn't control my energy level. I got 4 other brothers and sisters that I guess are normal, whatever that means. But I'm pretty high energy, and if I don't channel that energy into good causes, what do I channel it into? Bad causes, and I needed to get over that. And so I started doing things I thought had a good reason. And I'm just going to now we're going to jump to what got me on this crazy path. You know I can ride motorcycle. You know I can do it for a long time. You know that I can do it without the normal sleep of most people. But I'm going to tell you something. To do something as crazy as I'm about to do, you got to be big time mad at something. Because nobody would do what they're going to do to themselves unless you were really angry about something. And are you figuring it out? I'm mad. I'm getting madder the more I think about this problem. So, 4 years ago, a 56-year-old retired Army nurse gets on a Harley Davidson and she rides it 126 days in a row, and she covers 660 miles a day, and she sets the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest duration on a motorcycle, one person, one motorcycle in one country, and she holds the record today. People, what day is it tomorrow? It's Thursday. At 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon in Miami, I'm sitting down with a podcast with the record holder. And she's going to look at me and say, has anyone told you you're crazy? Has anyone told you I did 660 miles a day and it almost killed me, and you're going to try to do 1,000 a day? I don't know what I'm going to say to her, but I'm driving all night to get to her, and we're going to have that conversation. And so I'm paying attention to her record 4 years ago. And then a real nut job comes along, Chris Harper from Texas. He's a Texas cowboy. He gets on a 2021 brand new Harley Davidson. Now that's a 2023. It's brand new too, but it's 2 years old. It's been sitting for 2 years in a dealership because it's a 120th anniversary year model that's going to go 120,000 miles in 120. You with me what I'm doing here? So it's a 2-year-old bike, but it's still brand new. But he did it on the same bike that's 2 years older. And listen to this. That sucker took off and shattered every record that had ever been ridden on a motorcycle. He went 100,000 miles in 100 days, covered 104,000 miles in 100 days, and his charity was to raise $100,000 for muscular dystrophy. And I went, that is a noble cause. He did an iron butt motorcycle ride. He couldn't care less about Guinness World Records. Neither did I. I wanted to go after his record. People smarter than me said, Scott, only you idiots that ride long-distance motorcycles know anything about the Iron Butt Motorcycle Association. We all know what the Guinness World Record is. And here's your test, everybody. What's the #1 selling book in the world? The Bible. What's #2? Guinness Book of World Records. Are you kidding me? I just got to be honest with you. Now, you over here, again, I'm picking on you younger people. You think we had cell phones when I was a kid? You think we had computers? Look, I went to the library and pulled out the Guinness Book of World Records and said, some idiot rode a motorcycle. But it's a pretty high sold book, okay? And again, I could care less. If you don't know this, Guinness is actually a beer company. Did you know that? I don't know if we're a dry county down here or not, but I'm just going to tell you, I tasted Guinness beer one time. That is some garbage, okay? I just think it's terrible. And so, but they do have a pretty good record book, right? I mean, they do have some pretty good movies and TV shows and stuff that people do that's kind of interesting. And I had a bunch of people say, Scott, nobody cares about the Iron Butt Motorcycle Association except you idiots that ride long distance. Everybody knows about Guinness. I said, I don't care. They said, if you're going to have credibility to this ride, you have to do the Guinness thing. I said, well, I don't want to do the Guinness thing. They said, well, we don't care. You need to do the Guinness thing. I said, fine. Listen to this one. Guinness has a 25-page application you have to fill out. Oh, boy. And I had to do the test route 3 or 4 times and put on thousands of miles and say, here's the GPS coordinates, here's the gas stations, here's the Harley shops I'm going to stop in to get changes of tires. I had to figure out where I was going to be, when I was going to be there, and how often I was going to be there. And I had to do that on a 25-page application, and then I send it in across the seas to Guinness, and they send me a thing saying, we got your registered application, thank you for that. We get 60,000 applications a year, and we only accept 4,500. That's what I said. Ooh. And they said, it may take up to a year for us to vet your ride, and there's more of a chance you're not going to be accepted. Again, ask me if I care. I didn't care about Guinness, okay? I didn't care, but other people told me I needed to care because of the credibility of Guinness World Record. 7 months later, I get a letter. It says, you have been approved. You are allowed to do this. You must wear not 1, but 2 satellite trackers. You will have a satellite tracker that's pinging back to the satellite and back to England every 5 miles that is telling us where you are, when you're there, how long you're stopped, when you're stopped, how fast you're going, how many miles you drove. And they sent me a contract and said, understand one thing. If you do this, you do not own that record. Guinness, it's Guinness's record. I suppose. I mean, it's their book. But I had to sign that legal paperwork and say, yes, I agree. If I do this torture test, it's your record. I got a little paranoid. I mean, Maynard had a cough back there when I said I always drive the speed limit. They will be satellite tracking me, and I was testing it on the way down here. I wasn't on a motorcycle. I was in that white pickup truck. When I had the cruise control set at 75 miles an hour, the satellite tracker said I was doing 76.1 miles an hour, and I went, uh-oh. Guinness will say you're done. They will not let you earn a world record by breaking the law. I guess that's a good rule, but I'm going to tell you people on this side of the room, when I go through 30 miles road construction at 30 miles an hour, and when I get done with that, my hand is going to want to twist that throttle. And I got to twist it right up to the speed limit. That's going to be tough. But that's part of what we have to do, and agreed to do it, and we're going to do it. All right, why? Why do I want to do it? I said to my family, I said, there's a 41-year-old guy from Texas that set a new record. It's not a Guinness record. It's an Iron Butt record, and he did 100,000 miles in 100 days and raised money for a really good fundraiser. I'd kind of like to get ready and start doing this now, and that was 2.5 years ago. My wife said, I'm not very comfortable with that. I'm going to tell you why she's not very comfortable, because I left Maynard and his brother-in-law one time, and I said, I'm going to do a cross-country world record attempt. And I almost made it, didn't I, Maynard? Until I hit a big mule deer out near Reno, Nevada. And I ended up flipping out into a desert with sage trees about this high. And each time I flipped 3 times on the same motorcycle as that, basically. Those are 900,000 pound motorcycles. Every time that thing flipped out into the desert, it broke my back in 3 different places. I don't know if anybody in the room has ever broke a rib. How many have? Did you ever break all of them? I broke every single rib in my rib cage. I broke my back in 3 places. I shattered my collarbone on the right side in 5 places. One was a compound sticking out of my neck. I shattered the left leg and broke both bones in my left leg. I tore the cartilage in my right shoulder. I've got really pretty gold teeth back here. If you can believe it or not, those are implants because I knocked the real teeth out. And I laid there for 6 hours before God sent an angel to save my life. And I was 10 minutes from dying. I had so many internal injuries and was so badly injured. When that air evac helicopter hauled me out of there, they said I would have died within 10 minutes. And I was told by a doctor that I must go to the right church. And I don't know. I do believe in the right God. I don't know about churches, but I'll tell you, I believe in God. And I believe in angels, and I believe in Jesus Christ. And I'll tell you what, I was told I would walk with a limp the rest of my life. Anybody see me slowing down enough to walk with a limp? I was told that I was going to have my 3 broken vertebrae. My back had to be fused with a metal rod going down it, and I would never again bend over and touch my toes. I was told that collarbone that shattered in 5 places could not heal without a plate in it. Now let's just back up a second. Within 90 days, I'd torn this arm out of the socket, and it was laying in the middle of my chest. I had severed my bicep. I had ripped all 4 rotator cuffs out of my left arm. And I was told I would never raise this arm ever again, that I would be paralyzed in my left arm. You already know I was never supposed to bend over. I was supposed to walk with a limp. I was supposed to be I was in critical condition for many, many days. I've had almost a dozen surgeries. I've got more steel plates and screws in my body. I don't go make it through an airport. I'm just telling you. They always go, get over here. What's the matter with you? I said, I got a lot of metal in me. I'm the original bionic man. But where I'm going with this, the reason I'm a warrior for God is God saved my life. He pulled me out of that desert when I was close to dying. He said, are you going to straighten up and start paying attention? Are you going to do some good in your life for somebody? Or should I just let you go? I was in a body cast, woke up for the first time after about 24 hours. I'd had 3 emergency surgeries to save my life, and I was in critical condition, barely hanging on. The doctor looks down at me, and I'm in a body cast, okay? And he says, boy, you must go to the right church. Anytime a motorcyclist crashes, has a catastrophic crash at 75 miles an hour, they go straight to the morgue. And you're the only person we've ever worked on that broke every bone in their body, broke your back in several places, destroyed your collarbone. Remember, my rib cage did this. They were all broke. But he says, you'll never be the same. I said, why is that? He said, you're going to walk with a limp. I said, well, maybe. He says, if you're not paralyzed, you're going to be severely injured in the back. But he says, we're the most concerned about your left arm. He says, you're never going to be able to get your left arm. You'll be able to bend it at the elbow, but you can't sever all 4 rotator cuffs that lift your arm. They can't screw them back together. They can't heal them. They cut them and screwed them into my shoulder blade, or shoulder. He says, you're never going to get your arm this high. I smiled at that doctor in a body cast, and I said, Doc, I'm going to make you a promise. 1 year from this day, I'm going to have my arms this high, and I'm riding that motorcycle right back through Reno, Nevada. Did I do it, Maynard? Exactly. 12 months later, I rode through Reno, Nevada, and smiled at the doctors and said, look, I can get my arms this high. I'm not limping. My back doesn't hurt. I never go to a chiropractor. There is a God. And he's watching over me, and he's protecting me, and he asked me to do this. Do you believe me? He asked me to do this. And so I said, Chris Hopper, I'm coming after your record. And you did it at 41 years of age, and I'm going to do it at age 70. Because when they're doing a reality documentary film on this thing, they interviewed me and said, why are you doing this at 70 years of age? And I said, any 69-year-old can do stuff like this. Let's see what us gray-haired people can do. What motivated me? I went to a movie called The Sound of Freedom. And it is a true story about a real FBI agent with young girls as children, but he was on the pedophile human trafficking task force. I didn't even know what the movie was about. I just stumbled into it one day, and I'm sitting there looking at this movie going, well, that doesn't look like that good of a title, but let's see what it is. And this FBI agent is catching the creeps that are luring young boys and girls to their death or something bad. And he catches them and he puts them in jail. And at the start of the movie, his young partner that he's training in says, how many of these creeps have you caught and jailed in the last 10 years? And he says, that's the 277th one we've caught and put in jail tonight. And his young partner says, I don't know if I can do this. He says, well, why is that? Because we never do anything to help the children. We catch the creeps that are doing this, but we don't help the children that were kidnapped, trafficked, murdered. The rest of that story is he goes off and he saves 77 kids from a drug cartel that were kidnapped and being human trafficked. And at the end of the movie, I will never forget, I'm dumbfounded. Are you kidding me? There's a problem called human trafficking in the United States, and it says the number one crime in the United States is not drugs. It's human trafficking. When are we going to hear that from the news media? I'm serious. When are we going to learn this? Or are we guilty as charged? I see nothing, I hear nothing. It is not a problem in Georgia. Well, it's not a problem in Minnesota. I'm sure of it. We're a farming community. Oh yeah, we're number 8. I got really mad when I heard that. My grandchildren are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 years old. I live on a farm and we've got a quarter-mile driveway. We live on a country road that only 3 cars a day go down that road. Ask me if I let any of the grandchildren go to the end of the mailbox and get the mail. Not one of them is allowed to go down that driveway. Jacob Wetterling was kidnapped 40 years ago, 9 miles from our farm. And it's happening in your town, and it's happening in Savannah, it's happening in Atlanta, it's happening all over down here. And we got to wake up. We got to start fighting this thing. We got to push back. Now, I'm about done with the preaching and yelling and screaming. I'm going to tell you, if you believe in God, you believe in Jesus Christ, and you believe there are angels, then you better believe there's a devil and a demons that have come down to earth, and they are walking the planet. Everywhere we are, they are walking this planet. And they might be a teacher. They might be a dentist. They might be a lawyer. They are some ministers in Iowa. I've been doing a little research. The devil is a strong, strong thing. And until we stand up and start fighting back, him and his demons win. And I don't know what's the demand. I can't get my head wrapped around the demand to want to do something like that to a young boy or a young girl or anybody for that matter. I can't get my head wrapped around that. But they do, and they will until we learn to fight this thing. So I'm pretty much done. I'm going to open this up for question and answer of anybody that's got questions and answers. There is a book back there called The No Boundaries Tour, The Fight Against Human Trafficking. I'll give you this example. I was 18 years old when I started writing my first book, and it's that animal story book out there, The Folk and Their Fauna. I was working full-time and going to college full-time, so it took me 4 years to do that. Did you kids know there was something called a typewriter once upon a time? And it goes click, 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 click like this. And did you know that you had to pull a dictionary down to find out how to spell gargantuan? And then when you spelled it wrong, you had to use whiteout. Well, again, so these museum pieces over here know exactly what I'm talking about. This bunch, you might have seen it in a museum. So first book takes 4 years, and I click away on it, and I write that first book out there. I was very lucky because it's in its 39th printing. I guess people like animals. So I'm very blessed with that. I wrote another story called The 9 Lives to Eternity right after Maynard watched me almost die in 2009. And it's got a lot of short stories about things some crazy people do, but God and his angels come back to bring you back. And then it's not appropriate for this church. I did write a fiction book, okay? And that's called Terrifying Tales Unleashed. It's not appropriate for church, and I'm only going to say, if you think I believe in werewolves and vampires, you're wrong. I don't believe in them. But I find them tremendously entertaining. I'm a very diverse personality. I like a good vampire story, even though I don't believe in them. I don't believe in them one bit. But the last book I wrote, and if you don't think I wasn't motivated, 9 Lives, or No Boundaries Tour, The Fight Against Human Trafficking, is a 266-page book. I left my family and went down into my office just a few months ago. And God started typing through my word processor so fast, I was typing over 100 words a minute. No notes, no anything. And that 266-page book was done in 5 days. That's God. That ain't me. That's God. And I turned that into Amazon.com, and I said, we got a mission and we got a problem. That thing was released only 2 weeks ago by Amazon.com, and it became the #1 best-selling new release book in the entire Amazon.com system. And I'm getting calls and people from all over the nation calling up and going, that picture, that bound person got me thinking. Good, it's what I wanted it to do. It's got stuff in there about what is human trafficking, what are the signs of human trafficking. If you think you see something with young people, what are the symptoms? What are the signs? And then people, listen to me, you do not call the local cops. They do not know what to do. They are not trained. They don't know what to do. There's a lot of people that don't know what to do. If we're talking about a true human trafficking ring, if we're talking about professionals, it's more about some of that stuff I told you out here. There's helpline numbers. Now, Maynard was frustrated with me. He says, well, if I see something, Scott, we got to do something. I said, you do something about it if you see something that's in your neighborhood and you're seeing something that's not looking right. Someone that's not making eye contact, someone that looks very nervous, someone that never is allowed to talk because their uncle is telling them what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And you're looking for signs, you're looking for symptoms. We can help fight this thing, but you're not going to fight it yourself. We're in over our heads right off the bat. A lot of times, and officer, I'm glad you're here, sometimes you end up they'll end up with a situation, and they're sometimes taught and trained that the victim ends up being the one that goes to jail. They might go to jail because of prostitution, and they might be doing prostitution because they're forced. As human trafficked victims. So this thing is way more complicated than I ever would have believed. It's a way bigger problem than I ever would have believed. And please, the No Boundaries Tour book, my wife and I invested $10 per book to get it printed. Now here's the deal. If you got $10, take a book. If you got $15, that's what they sell for on Amazon.com. If you want to give $20, 100% of that book is going to the charity, okay? It's not coming back to me. It's going 100% to the charity. If you don't have any money tonight, take the goddamn book. Read it, study it, and have it help you. Pass it along to somebody, and the only good book is one that's so rat-eared and tore up that people keep passing it around and doing some good with it. It ain't no good sitting in them boxes back there. So please do not leave this place without a book, one way or another. If you have it in your hearts to donate something to this charity, do so. But I'm going to ask you this. Will you please pray for me as a group? Will you please pray that I can do this? I will need the strength of this group, this town. There are cards back there that have my cell phone number on it. That helmet in the back of that pickup truck right now is what's going to be on my head 18 hours a day, tied to this demon machine right here. And Sarah knows I need her to call me once in a while. And I need her to say, Scott, I'm thinking of you. I'm praying for you. How's the weather where you're at? Because it's really hot and humid in Sylvania. But I mean it. I need your thoughts. I need your prayers. I need your love. I need your support, because this is going to take an army. I'm not doing this alone. I'm sitting on the motorcycle every day, but I can't make it if you don't call me once in a while and don't ask me how I'm doing and say a prayer with me or whatever. Make those 18-hour days go a little faster for me, would you? And I'll say this very carefully. Some of you in here can appreciate this. I don't know if my body can endure this or not, and I don't know if that motorcycle's tough enough to do it or not, but please, a few of you send me an occasional tube of Preparation H. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a sore hind end sometime, and I wouldn't mind having a little bit of help on the backside, okay? All right, questions, thoughts, anything? And we'll go out there and I will show you the motorcycle. I will show you some of the customs things we've done, because I've got 2 gas tanks on that sucker. I can go a long way before I got to fill up. All right, I know it's a church. How you going to the bathroom, Scott? Well, I would say none of your business, but I'm a very honest person. There's a hydration tank on that gas tank. It's going to hold 1.5 gallons. If it's not going to be Gatorade, but it's going to be like a Gatorade. I am pushing 18 hours of wind a day. Do you know what that does to your hydration? It's going to be sucking fluid out of me every mile I go, and if I don't drink enough electrolytes and fluids, listen to this, to have to pee every 2 hours, I will be cramping so bad by nightfall, I ain't going to be able to get back on that thing tomorrow morning. So, I've got an old hose, and I'm going to be sucking her down, okay? But I can go 4 to 5 hours before I got to stop and fill up. I'm going to pee driving down the road. And if you don't want to look, turn your eyes, because I'm going to do it. So, I'm going to be eating every 2 hours. Some kind of a snack, a protein bar, an energy bar, a protein shake, a whey something or other. I'm going to be snacking on an apple. I'm going to be, actually, when I stop somewhere around noon to fill up, I'm going to have a can of tuna. I'm going to have some of these wraps, whatever they're called. I'm going to pop it in. I'm going to hop back in a motorcycle, and I'm going to eat a tuna wrap at noon. But I'm not going to stop and ever stop other than to fill up during the day. I'm going to pee going down the road. When I get in 18 hours later at night, I'm pulling into a Harley shop. And every night there is a Harley shop that's going to open up at 10 o'clock at night and put 2 mechanics on, donate their time. And they're going to change oil every 5 nights. They're going to change transmission fluid every five nights. They're going to put brand new front and rear tires on every 10 nights. They are going to check that bike every night because like a NASCAR race, you think they change tires after they blew a tire? Nope, they don't win the race when they do that. I'm not going to win this race if I go to got a flat tire. We're going to change tires before we got a flat tire. And we're going to do this every night. I'm pulling into a Harley shop, and they're going to start working on it. And the trainer I'm working with, oh my gosh, they want me to walk a mile to a restaurant and have a meal. And they said, you're going to eat what we tell you to eat, and it's not going to be a cheeseburger and fries. I have eaten more cauliflower, broccoli, and stinking salad than I have ever eaten in my life. And I don't like green stuff. I'm a meat and potatoes farmer, okay? And so I have worked really hard to lose 15 pounds. I am working with a professional trainer. Believe it or not, I don't know if anybody follows football in Georgia, but I'm a Minnesota Viking person, okay? We're pathetic, all right? But anyway, we hate the Green Bay Packers. My trainer was the center for the Green Bay Packers. So not only do I hate him because he's a Green Bay Packer, but he's torturing me. He's got me doing deep knee bends and squats and armband resistance things, and he's working on hip flexors, and he's working on my balance. He says, you're a 70-year-old guy. You're driving a 1,000-pound motorcycle down the road 18 hours a day. What do you think? You're 15 years old? First time, I was a high school and college wrestler. I got to be honest with you. I could do things you don't want to know I could do when I was their age. First time he says, we're going to have you do resistance bands, deep knee squats. I did and fell right on my face. I said to my wife, what happened to me? I lost my balance. I can do deep knee squats right now. I can do a lot of things I couldn't do at age 50. But I'm going to tell you something. If I make this thing, if that beautiful, clean motorcycle out there is alive after 120 miles, I don't know if I ever want to ride a motorcycle again. And I'm going to hope that God lets us finish our mission. Thank you. Thank you for the time. Last minute questions, anybody?
You send me an update and I'll put it in the mail.
Will do.
Any questions, y'all, for him? How do you take a shower?
Yeah, so the question is, how do I take a shower? So every night, I will have ridden 18 hours, bike's going to the Harley shop, I'm walking a mile, I'm going to eat one hot meal a day, I'm walking back to either a camper or a hotel room. I will every night. I mean, you get all that road grime on you. And pine pollen. What is this stuff on my windows down here? What in the world? Anyway, and so I will take a shower, and I'm going to hit the hay, okay? Because 3 o'clock's coming real early, okay? And the bike will be done, the keys will be in it, and I'm out of there again. And I got to do it over and over and over again. So that's a great question. Other questions? Sorry? Oh, who's following me? Okay. There's been a lot of talk about that, and there is really nobody that is willing to try to knock down 1,000 miles a day and follow me. We're going to have a support vehicle in each of the 5. There is a 5,200-mile rotation. You know, it's 1,038 miles a day, but it always ends up at a Harley shop on the loop, okay? We're going to have a support vehicle at this stop, one at this stop. There's going to be a support vehicle at all 5 of the stops, but but they're only ever going to be within 500 miles of me. I mean, if that makes sense. It's a long ways to the next stop. They might follow along once in a while because they're going to do a news media thing in Fargo, North Dakota, but they just figured that it's an almost impossible number to try and do even on a motorcycle, much less somebody trying to log all those same miles. So, but understand, I chose a route with 17 Harley dealers along the route. They're all on call 24 hours a day. And if I got a flat tire in the mountains of Butte, Montana, and I'm 75 miles away with a flat tire, think about this. I'm going to call Butte, Montana Harley dealer and say, I got a flat tire. I'm in trouble. Boom, they come out and pick me up. They load the motorcycle. They haul it 75 miles back to Butte, Montana. They fix and change the tire. Now, can I take off from there? No, they have to haul the bike back to the same spot we had the flat tire. And we just killed 3 hours. And I get back on that thing, and the satellite tracker says, well, for some reason, Scott was stopped for about 3 hours, but now he's moving again. Think about it. There's a lot of rules on this thing. So I've had questions, what if you blow an engine? Well, I'm going to tell you, if I blow an engine, we have a total of 5 hours to pull an engine out of another bike, pull the engine out of my bike, and put it in and replace my engine. It has to be the same bike. It has to be the same rider. So we'll even try that. Now I'm going to come back and say this one more time. If I'm too sick to go and I can't go for 3 days in a row, I will fail at a Guinness World Record. Am I going to quit on the charity? You better believe I'm not quitting on that charity. That's the war. That's the battle. It ain't Guinness, and it's not the iron butt record, okay? I will keep going. If I can't go for a day or 2 or 3, I'm going to go. And if the engine can't be replaced, I'm going to get on another Harley and keep going. I don't care about their stupid record, and I don't care about the iron butt. I don't care about certificates hanging on walls. I care about our cause and the fight we're going to do together. We're going to do this together.
Well, our prayers is that the Lord will be with you, because that's the one that's going to help you.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Fantastic question. Where am I getting the provisions? Okay, so I cycle back to St. Cloud, Minnesota, where Maynard and I are from. You know, I mean, that's where I live, 17 miles from there. I can't go home. If I go 17 miles back home, I'm disqualified. So I'm going to have actually a camper at the Harley dealer in St. Cloud. My family, every 5 days, will bring me enough underwear for 5 more days. A change of clothes, enough for 5 days. Enough apples for 5 days. Enough protein shakes and enough protein bars and enough tuna cans or whatever crap they got me eating. I'm going to replenish that sucker every 5th night with clothes. You know, you see the bike out there. It's got lots of bags and lots. I'm going to jam that sucker full of stuff that's going to get me back 5 days later and start it all over again. Now, if my wife works a job. She goes to work at 4 o'clock every morning, and she works 10-hour days, okay? She maybe can't be there. You know, I mean, she's going to have that camper with my supplies, but she may not be there. If she can, I hope she can. But you got to understand, I got one mission, and it's an important one, and it's not to socialize. It's not to read my mail. It's to talk to you guys if you are kind enough to call me. Say your prayers for me. That's the mission. So, but that's a great question. We're resupplied every 5 days. Yes?
You've been doing this conversation with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
In a lot of different places. Do you feel like your message is, are we getting better on the subject?
As the problem?
Yeah.
Question is, we do a lot of this talking and doing the human awareness of the problem. Is it getting better? I'm sorry to say right now it's growing. It's a growing, ever-growing problem. And again, I'm going to share this. The drug cartels found out that they can only manufacture, I'm just going to pick on one drug, whether it's heroin or cocaine. Let's just pick on that one. They got to pick cocoa leaves down in Mexico somewhere or in Colombia. They got to do whatever they do chemically to squeeze the juice out of it and turn it into a kilo of cocaine. Then they somehow get to our border and cross the border and sell a kilo to this family. But the drug cartels figured out that they do all that work, get it across the border, they sell that kilo of cocaine one time. Or we can kidnap this young lady right here and we can make money on her for the next 6 years, 10 times a day. And that's what that movie said, and I said, now I'm mad. Now my grandchildren are in jeopardy. Your children are in jeopardy. It's a growing problem, and the drug cartels and the Russian mafia and all these creeps that are fed by the devil himself are speeding up. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And we either don't see it, don't hear it, or say it's not in Sylvania, Georgia. Sorry, I wish I had better news for you.
I have to take the sex trafficking state. We have to take the test and we have to listen to the video. That is our policy for the state employee. And I finished mine in February. I just told him I finished mine the first week of February. And at the end of it, they said it had gotten worse. It had gotten worse. And I just took it last year. It said it's not getting any better.
Yeah.
And this year it said it had gotten 3 times worse.
Yep.
Worse. I just wanted to share that because this is something that is on my heart too.
Yeah.
So, but I want to ask, Mr. Pat, will you come up here, lead a prayer for us? Mr. Joe, will you come? Mayor, come on. Come on. Maynard, come on. He's looking. Maynard, come on. You're okay. Come on. Mr. Pat, will you lead it?
Heavenly Father, thank you for Scott. Thank you for the energy, the compassion, and the passion that he has to bring this message. We all know it's a huge problem around our country, in our state, even in our little town, and certainly across the world. And I'm not sure what it will take to make progress to defeat that, dear Lord. But guide us, give us strength, give us direction. Be with Scott through this 120 days, that Harley will operate well, that Scott will hold up and complete this mission, but most importantly, will bring this message across all the path that he covered. In thy name, amen.
Ride on those golden wings.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.